Welcome, dear students, to this new online class, this new episode actually. Now, this is for the fourth semester CBCS class. The paper we are dealing with today is the British Literature 18th century. And the text out of that paper we are concerned with today is, as you see on the board, Gulliver's Travels. Now, this is an introduction to Gulliver's Travels. This will give you the roadmap to a total appreciation and understanding of the novel. Now, Gulliver's Travels, we know, belong to the 18th century, and the writer is Jonathan Swift. Now, the 18th century is an age known for the growth of satire. It's the age in which we see the rapid growth of political parties, debates, rise of pamphlets, and also the rise of satire. So Gulliver's Travels, of course, at the end of the day, we must say Gulliver's Travels is a satire. The genre to which it belongs to is the satire, and as far as the satire is concerned, we know the satire has appears in myriad forms. Now there are direct satires, indirect satires, etc., etc. We know. Now Gulliver's Travels, as far as the tone of the work is concerned, it is juvenalian. It is a scathing criticism of mankind in general. So it is juvenalian. As far as the form is concerned, it is Lucianic. We know Lucianic satires are satires in the form of imaginary travels to imaginary fantastic lands. This is what Gulliver's Travels is. So Gulliver's Travels is a satire. It is a juvenalian satire, and it is also a Lucianic satire. Now this Gulliver's Travels is modeled on or it's a parody of certain earlier works. Now we have already said it belongs to the genre of the satire, but it intersects or overlaps with other genres as well. So it can be considered as a travelogue. Jonathan Swift creates this imaginary character, Lemuel Gulliver, who pretends to actually write about his travels. It is actually a parody of the travel writers like Dampier, and also a parody of works like Robinson Crusoe. Swift uses verisimilitude, the likeness to reality. He accumulates a lot of details to give us the impression of reality. But we know at the end of the day it's a fantastic tale. It's all concocted. But it parodies the travelogues. It parodies works like the works of Dampier and works like Robinson Crusoe. Now it is you can say it uses the voyage and return plot. Voyage and return. Now we know voyage and return works are of two kinds. In one of them, the voyage is to certain islands which are uninhabited. Now Robinson Crusoe finds himself in such an island. The other kind of voyage and return is where you visit islands which are inhabited but by strange creatures. Gulliver's Travels belongs to the second category of voyage and return. So as far as genres are concerned, yes, it is satire, but it also has likeness to travelogues, travel writing. Gulliver's Travels can also be considered as children's literature. At least the first two books, Lilliput and Brobdingnag, with 6 inches people and then 75 feet high persons in the second island. This is the tale. It's very merry tale it's a very merry tale for children. So we can consider it as children's literature as well. Then, of course, as a novel, Gulliver's Travels is a tale in prose. It gives us the impression of likeness to reality, but it lacks in the consistency we demand in the character of the protagonist. Gulliver lacks that consistency, so we cannot say it's actually a novel, though it plays a very great role in the evolution of the novel. So It has very similarity, no doubt, but the consistency is lacking, and also it is ultimately a fantastic tale. It can be considered as a fantasy. Fantasy. So satire, travel writing, voyage and return, children's novel or literature as a novel, fantasy, then science fiction. With things like a floating island, scientists being engaged in extracting sunlight from cucumber. It actually fits into that science fiction mode. Then Gulliver's Travels, of course, is considered as a utopia or dystopia. So he finally he reaches that island of the Houyhnhnms, where he finds perfect reason and order. So in that sense, it's a search for utopia. But that utopia is found only among the horses, not in the human-like creatures. The yahoos are filthy, reasonable, instinctive, dirty. So in that sense, it's a dystopia. So all these you can consider Gulliver's Travels as all these actually, as a satire, as a travelogue, the parody of the travel literature, children's literature, novel, fantasy, science fiction, utopia, dystopia. But at the end of the day, you will have to say Gulliver's Travels is a satire. What kind of satire? Zubellian satire in tone, Lucianic satire in form. Now let's go to the satire itself. What is satirized? What are the targets of Swift's satire? So let's move on to the next slide actually. So Gulliver's Travels is a satire, we said. What kind of satire is it? Satire it's a political satire, no doubt. 18th century British politics is satirized, but at the same time, satires always have universal issues, and they rise above the topicalities. So what are those human follies and foibles, and also particularly 18th century issues that are satirized? So human pettiness, pride, political conspiracies, flattery, religious intolerance, war, colonialism, science, actually the Royal Society of Science. These are satirized in Swift's work. So a whole lot of things. 18th century politics, yes, 18th century British politics, and also wars between England and France, political conspiracies, flattery as the means of gaining favor rather than merit, religious intolerance, war, colonialism, science, then human perfectibility, the very idea that humans can reach a state of perfectibility is itself satirized. And then reason, the belief in or the faith in the fact that humans can be totally reasonable creatures is satirized here. Ultimately, we find reason only in the horses, not in the humans. These are the follies, and these are what Swift satirizes with his irony, wit, caustic language, exaggeration, etc. With those devices, he scathingly attacks these follies and foibles of human society in general, and particularly the English society of the 18th century. Now the travels. We know Gulliver's Travels actually has 4 books. These 4 books are 4 travels. He describes 4 of his travels, which lead him to strange islands, and then he returns, of course. And in all these adventures, He reaches the strange islands not by plan, but because of some accident or the other. In the first case, it was the sheer accident, the shipwreck, which leads him to the island of Lilliput, where the people are 6 inches tall. 6 inches tall, yet they are so proud and haughty. They fight wars. There is religious intolerance between the high hills and the low hills, and the political fights are about which end of the egg should we break. So those political trivialities. Then the political conspiracies, where Gulliver who protected the Queen's palace from being doused in flames, actually has conspirators against him. He had to escape to Blefuscu, which is of course France. So and in Lilliput, you see how people gain the favor of their leaders through flattery, not by merit. These are what are satirized in this particular part of the text called the visit to Lilliput. So war is satirized, political conspiracies, religious intolerance, our haughtiness. These are all satirized in this island. Then he ultimately comes back, of course, from Blefuscu, where he had to escape because there was a conspiracy against him in Lilliput. Then the next journey he talks about, where again he reaches a strange island. That island is called Brobdingnag. How does he reach? This time his mates, the sailors, other sailors actually abandon him. So his distaste, his misanthropy, his hatred for humanity is slowly reaching a crescendo. Ultimately, in the final island, he will embrace the horses actually, abandoning the. And when he comes back, he will spend more time with the horses rather than the yahoos or human beings. That kind of a work it is. So in Brobdingnag, the people are 75 feet high. Gulliver there is a pet. Is a pet, yes. And in the king there actually laughs at Gulliver's country, and the smallness and yet their haughtiness. So Brobdingnag is some kind of a utopia. There's reason and order there. Then the third is the island where he reaches the island of Laputa. Laputa actually is a floating island which rules over Bunly. So that colonialism, Britain colonizing Ireland. So that is there. Then there he also visits certain other places, like there is an academy of Lagado. This is Royal Society, which is satirized. From cucumber, scientists are trying to extract sunlight. Then the exploitation of Bunly. Then there's another place here called Glubdubdrib, where there are magicians and sorcerers. They can summon the heroes of the past, the dead. And Gulliver meets people like Brutus there, and he now understands how history has been misused, how history has been presented to us in a way that actually is not. So history, I forgot to tell you, history also is satirized. The way history is written, read and taught is satirized in Gulliver's Travels. So add that to our list of things that are satirized. So Glubdubdrib. Then he goes to another place in this near Balnibarbi, which is Ladnek. There you have the immortals, and there in this encounter, human desire for immortality and the fear of death is actually an issue. It is satirized. So immortality without youth is something which is not desirable. So immortality, desire for immortality, and the fear of death, these are also satirized. So add along with pettiness, pride, war, religious intolerance, political factionalism and conspiracies, colonialism, the perfectibility, reason. Along with those, add history and desire for immortality and the fear of death as his targets of satire. So, and the last island that he reaches is the island of the Houyhnhnms, the horses, and they keep cattle like we keep cattle here. They keep cattle, who are the yahoos. These yahoos are like the human beings. They are close to the human beings, but they are filthy, unreasonable, detestable creatures. We name the horses are reasonable creatures. They are orderly. This is the utopia. Or, according to other scholars, here the satire's target is Lemuel Gulliver himself, who is expecting orderliness, perfectibility, and reason. So that this actually is a dystopia in that sense. So these are the four books of Gulliver's Travels. So we had an introduction to it. It's a satire, 18th century satire, Lucianic and Juvenalian in tone, Lucianic in form. What kind of a genre is it? It's ultimately satire, but it's also like a novel. It can be written as read as travel book, voyage and return plot, science fiction, fantasy, utopia, or dystopia, all those. Then the four books and the targets of its attacks. So this is what Gulliver's Travels in a nutshell is. Hope this class will help you in and understanding the whole book, and you can read the book now, the four books, with special emphasis on the last two books for your exam preparation. So thank you.